Carp could totally do it with a pec fin. A bluegill or something would probably have to boop it.
Hello there, and welcome to the Invaders podcast, the multi-species angling podcast. I am Bret Bolton. Joining me for episode 8 are Justin Wingert.
Hey, man. Good to be here again.
And Dave Spear.
Hey, listen to this real stuff.
Hey, that's a real noise this time.
Hey, it's real this time.
We have an improvement.
Thanks, guys. This should be a lot of fun. This month, we're looking at some recent trips, some angling news, and as always, our fish of the month. Speaking of trips, Dave, anything to share?
The heat index was 111 degrees today, and the day before and the day before. So I haven't been fishing in a month, guys.
I understand. What about you, Justin?
It was 107 like 2 days ago. And no, I haven't been fishing in like a month either.
No problem. So I win enough for all of us.
That's what I hear.
I might have heard about that.
So it's pretty obvious that most of us here at If It Swims are species nerds, myself included. With that in mind, my son and I headed down to South Florida for a few days of fishing with species chasing as the primary goal. And we did manage a few. We fished urban canals, jetties on the Atlantic and the Gulf side of the state. We fished our way all the way across twice via Alligator Alley and a Tamiami Trail. We hopped on a boat in a suburban community lake and fished our way down to the tip of Florida through the Everglades.
Wow.
That does sound pretty awesome.
Crazy full days, sweaty days, and had awesome food mixed in. I got a species list. Y'all want it?
No, I don't.
You know, I'm looking forward to
only
this.
because I'll be too jealous.
I will be envious, but, you know,
Yeah, lay it on us.
Bret has sort of previewed us during his trip with some pictures,
has,
but
yeah.
I have a feeling he's held a few things back.
I think he's been sandbagging.
I don't think so. I think you know most of them. So, largemouth bass.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Tons of peacock bass.
That's cool.
Black crappie. That's not that cool.
That's the good one right there. That's the exciting one.
Clown knifefish,
Yeah, okay.
No, that's cool.
which is the coolest thing ever.
That's the one that's super awesome. I mean, that fish was incredible looking.
That was the main reason for the trip.
Yeah.
Was to get. I didn't get one. Just saying. We caught Mayan cichlids, jaguar cichlids, Oscars.
Nice.
I caught my 4th gar species. I caught a Florida gar,
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
which that was a cool fish. And that was one of the other ones I wanted to get.
That fish looked like you painted it black.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was officially melanistic or not, but it was almost completely black. The other ones I
cool.
saw were not. So if it wasn't melanistic, it was just extra, extra dark.
Yeah.
Followed by bluegill,
Right?
Yeah, I mean, they're everywhere.
snook,
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
tarpon.
Uh-huh. Now we're talking.
Do they go aerial?
That's all they do.
Yeah. That's all they do. Bite, jump.
Yep. Bite, jump, and land in the mangroves.
Yeah.
And because, why not, a juvenile Goliath grouper.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yes.
You
that
said a
was a-
picture. That's pretty cool.
That was a Goliath. And I did lift it out of the water. Florida says I can do that with the small ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, let's
Very
be
protected.
honest. The one that you caught,
Mhm.
it's an amazing looking fish, everybody.
Beautiful fish.
Was small. It wasn't like he was damaging this fish by lifting it up.
Right,
You know,
right.
and that's the big problem
Right.
with a grouper or
The
something
big
like that
ones.
is they weigh so much they just
They
can't
can- yeah.
handle the gravity.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what it is. This fish was probably 4 or 5 pounds.
Mhm.
This was a nice bass.
Yep.
I caught peacocks larger than that grouper.
Sure. But you know what's fun about chasing species or like collecting species on a trip like that is that the size of them really doesn't matter. Like you're catching
Exactly.
something you've never
Yeah.
seen before.
Exactly. Especially if it's something like really rare, like that knife fish, or for me, a grouper would be very rare.
Well, that grouper was a total shock. We all know
It's a nice bonus.
unexpected. The others were all fairly much expected. That grouper was nuts. So I think it's a full dozen species for the 3 days we were there.
Wow. Now,
That's
you
awesome.
did say you did some jetty fishing. Was that, how'd the jetties turn out?
Nothing at all.
Okay.
That was purely because we drove all the way across the state. We're going out to the Gulf and we're going to fish the jetty. Because we're there, we fished both sides of it in the same day.
Right.
That was the only reason we did it.
You guys went east to west. You got to fish the water all the way.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah.
To your point, Dave, I was thinking the last time I went down to the coast, the Gulf, to fish with Bret, I was almost as excited to catch like a 4-inch pinfish on a tiny hook out of a ditch as I was to be catching all the big reds we're catching, because it's a new species to me. It's something I'd never caught before.
Right.
It was a thrill to catch this little tiny, like a little stripy bluegill looking thing. And I was like, I got one, I got one.
He was excited.
Yeah.
By catching, you don't mean in a cast net, because that's
Yeah, I caught it I angled for a pinfish.
that was pretty amazing. That clownfish I mentioned wasn't very heavy, but it was about 40 inches long.
Oh, wow.
It's a long fish.
And when the guide put the net in front of it to net it, it backed up. It swam backwards fast.
Oh, wow.
That's strange.
Well, they got that long fin. I guess, did it kind of look like the way a snake moves, the way the fish swam?
That is the best description there is. Yeah, and they're weird.
It sounds
there's
wild.
nothing to it. It's only 2 inches thick, the whole thing.
Sure.
But it's such a cool fish. I got to go back. The day we did the Tab Miami Trail was by far the best one. That's one of the days we fished coast to coast. And at some point, about a little over halfway across the state, I jumped about a 4-foot tarpon right after catching a peacock, a snook, and a largemouth on back-to-back-to-back casts.
That's pretty cool.
That's ridiculous. What are those fish all doing mixed together there, right?
You know, that reminds me, this is one of my favorite quotes from a man named Lefty Cray, who was a famous fly fishing author. And, you know, he did all kinds of fishing. He just happened to get real big in the fly fishing community. But he lived down the Florida area and did, you know, columns on fishing for years and years and years. But the quote is, the fishing was so good, you thought it was yesterday.
Oh, that's brilliant. I got about a 30-minute lesson from him once.
Yeah.
On casting. Not much, 30 minutes. It made me better, you know, so it was kind of cool. It was more that I wanted to do that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've done it too. Guy is hilarious. And he'll razz on you too. Well, I mean, he's passed now, but he used to do this. He would come out to fishing shops and fishing clubs and speak and one of the most charming people, full of stories, hilarious.
He was awesome.
And he would just razz you on your cast. He was telling me, Dave, you got to aim higher, aim for that fence. I am. No, you're not, son.
Oh, man. He was great.
I got a lesson from Bill Dance once. He told me to add a chair to the boat.
Nice.
Brilliant. So all we took for gear was basically my white bass gear. We were using jig heads and shad bodies, hard jerk baits, basically crappie jigs for everything except for the grouper. The grouper came on a blade lure. You know those things? Justin, you know them because you use them all the time.
Yes, vaguely.
It's a rattle trap, but it's all metal and doesn't rattle.
Oh, yeah. We take those when we go to Cedar Creek for whites and hybrids. And
exactly, yeah. Well, I mean...
Yep, or like Leela tail races and so on.
You can get some distance with them is the reason I used it.
Right. I don't think I've ever fished one of those, but I will often throw a casting spoon, like when I'm at a jetty, for the same reason.
Okay.
You know, it's this,
right.
They just don't have the casting spoons are just blank. They're just a hunk of metal, whereas the blade lure has a bit of
it's got a
mold to it that looks like a fish, doesn't it?
I guess to me it looks more like a fish than a spoon. But people catch a lot of fish on spoons, right?
Yeah.
One of the spots we found the baby tarpon. I got a couple into the shore just to get a picture of them, the smallest ones. But we spent about an hour hooking 18 to 24 inch tarpon.
Nice.
Until
that's pretty fun.
Until the gator showed up. This was 10, 12 foot, showed up and just, it really wanted those tarpon.
Yeah.
I've lost fish to sharks, and I've had small alligators down on the Texas marshes chase redfish you've hooked.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
but nothing like this guy. I mean, the
Not
tarpon,
one that was bigger than you.
no, tarpon would jump out, and he came out of the water, mouth open, at it every time.
Oh, man.
So we
That's
we
awesome.
got out of there.
Yeah, it was
before we
probably
lost the
smart.
tarpon to it.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome. So
Before
yeah,
you lost your rig to it.
yeah. Well, it was just a crappie jig. I'm not going to lose much.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm ready to go back. I haven't even unpacked my gear yet because I feel like when I unpack it, it's really over.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah, you guys would really dig that running and gunning and fishing ditches for all sorts of species.
Oh, it sounds right up my
Well,
alley.
let's go. I have one concern with you going, Justin.
Mhm.
You will see fish in a ditch
Yep.
and get fixated on them.
We won't leave. No, I gotta catch it. It's right there.
Like, there's plenty more. Let's go down further.
Yep. That would be a
But,
problem. Yeah.
Yes, but I'm seriously. We should at least entertain the idea of doing an If It Swims trip down there.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Just because so many stupid species, why not?
Mhm. Yeah, that'd make for a hell of a bonus episode.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, hell, I know. To your point, me getting fixated, but that pinfish that I mentioned earlier. How long was I fishing that ditch trying to catch them before I finally landed one?
Yeah. Also, I know a lake down there now for red-tailed catfish.
Ooh.
The double ooh.
Listen to these nerds.
They're down over red-tailed catfish.
I've never caught one.
Nerd.
The
Yeah, me either. Let's do it.
USGS shows a lake that have 2 official reports in it. So probably more than that have been caught out of it, just not reported.
Yep. Makes sense.
I got to try for those guys too. Plus, there's a few more cichlids I couldn't get. I saw a Midas cichlid.
Mm-hmm. I've never even heard of a Midas cichlid. Is it gold?
It's like a goldfish, but with that cichlid triple tail look.
With and a chomper face. Looks like a goldfish that would eat other goldfish.
Yeah, pretty much. And then I saw some tilapia, and they wouldn't eat anything I had.
Tilapia just survive on hope and dreams. They don't actually eat.
They don't really eat.
No.
Did you have to Google any of those fish you caught?
Only the jaguar cichlid.
Mm-hmm.
And when I caught it, I was pretty sure they were both jaguars, but I wasn't positive.
Yeah, some of the cichlids would have been my guess if you caught anything you weren't sure about right away.
Yeah.
Because there's so many species of disparate cichlids throughout the area that I wouldn't know half of what I was catching.
No. The cool thing is, though, the ones you're going to smash a lure, you know what those are.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yep.
I'd
Those
be
I
the
would
same.
recognize.
I'd be the same with the cichlids. I'd be like, oh, look, another brim. I don't know what kind that one is. Oh, this one's orange and black. Oh, this one's yellow and blue.
The peacock's a cichlid, don't forget.
Oh, yeah, I guess it is.
There's a perch.
You bet it is. Most of what I caught, I guess, was cichlids. The Oscar's a cichlid.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just call them all ditch perch.
Ditch perch.
Yeah.
It was, and some of the waters I was fishing were literally 2 foot wide. It was ridiculous.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was.
I like fishing spots
And
like that.
there's decent sized fish in there because they just moved in that an hour ago and they'll move back out later. When I go back, it's probably going to be in March. I told you guys when I went, I was there at the wrong time of year to do this.
Yeah.
It's too much water because it rains in the summer, so the Everglades are full of water. So these ditches aren't the only place they can be. They could swim off back in the trees back in the grass for miles. Go back there in March when it hasn't rained, and they're all in those ditches. They can't go anywhere, and they're probably pretty hungry.
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, it was fun. I'm ready to go back. Let's go.
Yeah.
Look at it.
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's go.
Get in the truck.
How about some fishing news? I'm going to let Justin go first.
Alrighty. So I got a pile of notes here because our printer sucks. But bear with me. So this one, I don't know if any guys, you may have brought this, Bret. I don't know. The clue there is it kind of circles back to a story we previously discussed.
I saw 2 stories that circled back, and I'm wondering which one you have.
Well, then I will read the headline and tell you right off the bat. I have rare doomsday fish found off coast of Southern California by group of snorkelers and kayakers.
Perfect.
This is from people.com, which is kind of a weird place to get fishing news from, but that's where I found it. have a group of kayakers and snorkelers found an extremely rare deep-sea fish nicknamed a doomsday fish off the coast of Southern California. We discussed this being found, I want to say, was it Thailand last time?
Sure.
Anyway, one of the like Southeast Asian countries where they had caught an oarfish. What we're talking about is an oarfish. So as you guys know, oarfish are extremely deep water fish they're long and slender. They get up to about 30 feet long. They are commonly associated with doomsday phenomenon as an old myth and stereotype. We'll circle back to that in a moment. This was Saturday, August 10th. The group encountered a 12-foot oarfish while they were in the La Jolla Cove near San Diego. It is apparently one of only 20 oarfish sighted off California since 1901.
So those fish suck at predicting earthquakes then, because there's been more than 20 earthquakes in California since 1916.
That's true. Well, story's out. So these people were able to contact NOAA, which is cool because they knew that the fish was extremely rare and potentially valuable as for scientific research. And they were able to get in touch with NOAA's Southwest Fisheries Science Center and Scripps Oceanography. They sent out some scientists to pick it up. They're gonna perform a necropsy on it and see if they can figure out why it died. And then they are sending it to the Scripps Marina Vertebrate Collection, where it will be studied pretty heavily because it's pretty rare for them to get a very intact, recently deceased one. And in the pictures that I've got here, the fish, I mean, it was obviously dead, but it looks very recently deceased, much better shape than the one I had in the previous story. That one washed up right before they had some earthquakes in Southeast Asia. And this one, in fact, now this is hardly a cataclysmic event in California, but a day after this was found, Los Angeles had a 4.4 magnitude earthquake.
Oh.
Which again connects to we talked about how there might be some actual scientific basis if they're picking up seismic phenomenon deeper in the water that drives them up above the level where they can survive successfully, and they end up on the surface where people find them, and then there's an earthquake or something.
Right. We mentioned this before. There's, whether it's true science or not, there could be something there that isn't just predicting the future. They could be sensing something actually happening and getting out of there. So that's not doomsday. Yeah. It's not prediction, but it's like maybe they can feel something. And that lateral line is 12 foot long.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, birds will flock up and fly before a storm.
Exactly, Dave, exactly.
I figure if you're sitting there 1,000 feet deep or however deep these fish are, and you start to feel a little rumble, run.
That's not a crazy thought.
No, I think that was actually my first thought when I saw that story too. I think this was one of the stories that was big enough that we all probably saw it even before thinking about trying to look up stories to tell on the podcast.
Right, because we all did that today.
Yeah, exactly. Last minute, professional.
I saw this story yesterday. I thought, hey, there's mine for the podcast. That was easy. Yeah, it says they primarily live over 1,000 meters down in the mesopelagic zone, which is where light cannot even reach. So by the time anyone actually sees them, they're almost inevitably dead or dying. This one, like I said, at least was in very good shape, so probably just had very recently died and will provide excellent scientific research for NOAA's fisheries and so on.
Very, very cool.
But I thought it was interesting that we had talked about how people believe them to be harbingers of earthquakes, and like 2 months later, one was found right before an earthquake.
Sure.
California, they get earthquakes that size all the time. The people in Los Angeles yawned and bought a coffee.
Well, sure.
But, it's still interesting timing.
Yeah. That is cool. Hey, Dave, you got one? Or do you have the same one?
You know what? I knew we would all find that one, and so I found a few. And I was sitting here thinking, I was like, which one do I want to talk? and I think I'm gonna tell you guys this one because I found this slightly humorous.
I like funny.
So this came up on the 12th of August. A Georgia angler was charged after game warden discovers hidden fish. So a Georgia fisherman's facing consequences for harboring an illegal number of freshwater fish. Officials with the Georgia DNR shared news about the retrieval on an agency's Facebook page. The post said the game warden Will Gilstrap was patrolling for fish activity.
Will Gilstrap?
Will Gilstrap.
Oh, another fish name for a fish person.
That's right.
Yes, excellent.
He was patrolling for fish activity along the Chattahoochee River when he noticed something odd. He observed a subject hiding fish along the riverbank as he was catching them.
Man,
Is he hiding them for winter?
thought you were going to say in his pants. I really did.
Well, I was kind of hoping that was where the story was going to go, but Gilstrap spoke with the fisherman, found him to be in possession of 10 trout. He was charged with being over the limit, et cetera, et cetera. But the trout caught by the subject, who was not identified, of course, were confiscated by the DNR. And it's not yet clear what fines or penalties the man faces. Now, this was a post that apparently they found on Facebook, and it was met with mixed reviews. You know, things like, so charge him, but let him keep the 6 fish that are within his limit, or times are hard. Maybe this is the only way he feeds his family, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But of course, a lot of people came in to defend the game warden about, protecting this resource. And to me, if you're going to keep a fish to eat, which I mean, bully, you could do it, young. But hiding them on the bank, like,
yeah, why are you hiding them?
I don't know about you guys.
Are you afraid a bear is going to steal it?
If I keep fish to eat, I hide them in ice, because the reason I like to eat fish that I've caught, besides the fact that it kind of takes you back to that prehistoric hunter-gatherer type thing,
right,
is that they taste so much better than what you can get generally at the store or the restaurant, because you have been able to keep them fresh, cold and fresh. So, I mean, just the idea of a guy sneaking along in Georgia on the Chattahoochee, hiding trout on the bank, just killed me.
Like lifting up a rock and putting a fish under it.
Yeah.
Sticking it in an old hole in a tree, tail sticking out.
Dave, I saw some of those responses, and the one where people were saying maybe that's how he needs to feed his family and that's all he has. I have a better solution for him than trout.
Yeah.
It's buffalo and freshwater drum.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Which tastes great, and you can get a whole lot more of those.
Yeah, if that's the case, there's got to be a lot more fish you can more easily catch than trout.
And legal ones, too, sure.
Yeah,
and,
if you're...
right.
Although maybe they've been eating buffalo every day for the last 2 months, and they just had a hankering for some...
He's trying to get them a treat.
All right, Brad, what did you find? Because I know there's more good stuff out there.
So mine is from WMAR in Baltimore. A story about invasive fish removal at a fish elevator on a dam.
Did you hear Steven Tyler, Justin? Or are you too young?
What?
Did I hear him? I know who Steven Tyler is.
Fish in an elevator.
Oh, fish in an elevator. Nice.
Every time I hear fish elevator, I always imagine the idea of like fish just getting in a regular elevator, like pushing the button and elevates them up, with their little fin.
Do they use their pectoral fin, or do they boop it with their snoot?
They just nose into it.
I guess it depends on the species. Like a carp could totally do it with a pec fin. A bluegill or something would probably have to boop it.
I wasn't expecting that today. The Conowingo Dam stretches across the Susquehanna River between Cecil and Hartford counties in northern Maryland. The giant acts as a gateway to many fish species spawning grounds upriver. But the doors aren't open for everyone. A fish lift installed at the dam works like a water-filled elevator, transporting migratory fish up and over the concrete structure. It also makes filtering out invasive species pretty easy. Once a school of fish is trapped in the lift, experts screen it for unwanted travelers and then pluck them out by hand.
Now, wait a minute. Are you saying I could be a fish bouncer?
Apparently, yes. It says a bouncer at the door and says, "You're not dressed well enough to get up here. Go away."
That guy is getting trout to feed his family and hiding them on the bank. He should get this job, and he could take all the invasive fish home and eat those.
There you go.
He can hide those on the bank instead.
Well said. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Okay.
During the 2024 season, which ran from March to June, they removed more than 18,000 pounds of invasive fish.
Wow.
That included 2,100 northern snakehead, 746 flathead catfish, and 36 blue catfish. None of these fish were wasted. Most of them sent to a seafood wholesaler, and many of them donated to local food bank.
Awesome.
Oh.
Yes.
That's a great
See,
way to
we
do
were
it.
ahead of you
I
on
know.
accident.
Awesome.
Brett's over there sitting on his hands going, but wait, guys, there's more.
It's awesome that way.
Now, wait a minute. Where did you say this was?
Northern Maryland.
Northern Maryland. Because I was thinking about that, the catfish. I was like,
Blues and flatheads are invasive. We had a story a few months ago
Yeah, we had
about
a news story
invasive
about that.
flatheads in Georgia.
Mm.
And the cool thing about Georgia was they're invasive on these rivers, but native in these other rivers,
Oh, sure.
which really complicated with humans involved.
Yeah.
Mhm. Very much so.
The number of snakeheads removed at the dam this year was more than double the amount removed since the program began in 2021.
Wow.
So there's a lot of snakeheads over there now.
Sounds like it. Way too many.
It says the DNR urges anglers to harvest these species when they catch them and report catches in a new webpage they have for invasive species tracking. So I've never eaten snakehead.
Does it list the webpage?
It does. I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I
Thank
was going
you.
to say,
in
give it a shout out.
case
and put it in the
someone
notes.
in Northern Maryland is listening.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you never know. There might be someone someday by accident.
By accident, yes. So I've never eaten snakehead, but they are live food eaters, and we all know my theory on that.
They're delicious.
But I have
Yeah.
eaten blue catfish and flatheads from Texas where they are native, although that native blue catfish range is really weird, and it does not include where any of us live.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
The red down to the Sabine and the Rio Grande.
That's it for blues?
That's it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, see, I was going to guess the eastern side of the state, which
Well,
for,
you got half of
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
for the 72,000 listeners that are not from Texas listening to this podcast today, is the red and the Sabine, but Rio Grande is on the other side of the state. It's a whole different vibe down there.
From New Mexico all the way down to the valley into Brownsville.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, the blues and the blues and flatheads also delicious, and their diet.
Live fish. Yeah.
Just saying, yes.
Yeah. I do have an acquaintance that lives in Maryland
Mhm.
that fishes for snakehead specifically to feed his family.
Really?
To specifically
That's
feed.
cool.
Not in a this is the only thing we can eat, but because they're
Right,
so
right.
they love it because it's so
Mhm.
good.
And
That's
they're
awesome.
also if there's that many of them, and they're fairly aggressive, and not that hard to catch either,
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's no limits on them or anything else. Just go, man, go.
That's a
I
fish
wonder.
I
I wonder how well they
Yeah.
fillet up. Like, I wonder if they're really bony and you got to work for it. If it's just like super easy.
From what I've read,
Uh-huh.
it's just a really weird shaped boneless fillet.
Ooh. No, I want to catch one.
Weird shaped because it's long and
Mhm.
skinny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Several years ago, I read a book titled "Eating Aliens:
Mm-hmm.
One Man's Adventures Hunting Invasive Animal Species" by Jackson Landers.
That sounds cool.
And it was a great read. And there's also a fantastic website called eattheinvaders.org, which has recipes and info on dozens of invasive species. I'll add both of those to the show notes. And extremely related, I'll note that humans have the unique ability to extinct a species if we set our minds, or better yet, our stomachs to it.
Hmm.
That is all too true.
Yes. The last wild passenger pigeon was shot on March 24th, 1900 in Ohio. At that time, the U.S. population was 76 million, roughly 22% of the current population.
Wow.
The people of the 1800s ate every last one of those birds
Mm-hmm.
that used to number in the billions, with a B,
Jeez.
billions.
Wow.
Eating these fish and other invasives is the answer.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Just got to get enough people to realize that.
That's the trick. That was not a
Mhm.
soapbox.
It's
Was
good
it?
for your belly and it's good for science.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need an If It Swims snakehead hunting trip.
Well, dang it, that dang Florida trip again. I spent a couple afternoons behind a gas station
Mhm.
As you will.
What,
Yeah.
that was
It was
before the fishing.
No, it was a known snakehead canal. Never got one to even blow up on us or anything. But
Yeah.
they're
We
there.
tried.
But apparently there are a lot more of them in Maryland.
I wonder why that is. I would think they would be a species that prefers like the warmer climates, but I don't know enough about them to know that for sure.
Don't know. It may just be more river water and stuff in other
Mhm.
cities. They just do better than that than they do in those canals
could be.
and slow water in Florida. Who knows?
Or just less competition from all the other weird crap that showed up in Florida.
That's a possibility.
They're
Too.
they're not competing with all the peacock bass and the jaguar cichlids and everything.
Yeah. So Dave, you haven't caught a snakehead yet?
No.
Well, there was a chance you got one.
I was supposed to take a snakehead specific trip with a mutual friend of ours a couple of years ago, but it's just one of those things that never panned out.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
See, I can guess who the friend is now.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
that's also where this canal behind the gas station
Mhm.
came from. It was a recommendation from him. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's probably why I didn't catch anything.
No, I'm sure they're there.
No, I'm sure.
The picture he sent me of a snakehead
Mhm.
that he had caught was
Yeah.
still geotagged to that
Okay.
canal behind the
That's fair
gas
then.
station. And I doubt he carried it somewhere.
Yeah.
Just to throw you off.
Yeah. He doesn't. Can't let anyone know his secret snakehead canal.
I
He's
caught
gonna
this
drive
behind the Buc-ee's in
25
San
miles.
Antonio.
Yeah, I don't think there's too many secret snakehead spots in Florida. It's just kind of
Oh, there's a Buc-ee's off of 35 up by Denton
Mhm.
that has a pond by it that looks incredible, and I went there to check it out. And there's just no fishing signs everywhere.
Really.
Yeah, that
Full-
only because
full
Dave made
snakehead.
the Buc-ee's joint. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
There's two signs around the whole thing. One that says no fishing, no fishing, no fishing. And the other one says danger snakes, danger snakes, danger snakes. So now I want to go fish for a danger snake.
I would too.
Awesome.
Yeah, just a
Awesome.
random anecdote, but it's just I thought of that because Dave said behind the Buc-ee's. Oh, there really is a Buc-ee's with a pond I want to fish, but they won't let you.
Dave was right though. A lot of this Florida trip is canals right behind the hotel, next to the highway, just weird places where there was water.
Mhm.
You know what?
Well, I think it might have even been Dave in our little group chat. You're talking about kind of like the Best Buy swim we used to fish at.
Oh, exactly.
Mhm.
It was exactly like that.
Yeah.
It was just weird canals behind everything.
Mhm.
I guess that's better than having water everywhere. At least if you dig a canal, it all goes in there.
Yeah, that's true.
I did some ditch fishing in Florida a few years ago.
Is that a euphemism?
What's that?
Is
That's
that a
what he did
euphemism?
behind the gas station.
Yeah. I did
Some
something
ditch
in a
fishing.
ditch behind a gas station in Florida a few years ago. And it was one of those, deals where a friend pointed me to some specific ditches
Mhm.
along a specific map, right? And I was I was looking for tarpon, baby tarpon.
Sure.
And it's one of these things that, and I'm not saying that every ditch or every piece of water in Florida is full of something awesome, but
It might be.
it's one of these things where people like us that don't live near ditches in Florida will get with other anglers and figure out where the best place to go is. And then you go there and the whole state is littered with these things.
Yeah.
And there's literally tarpon in all of them.
basically the
There's
same.
tarpon in all of them.
There's peacock bass in all of them,
Mhm.
It's crazy.
Spend a month analyzing exactly which one to go to, and it's literally exactly the same as the rest.
And in fact, I don't know what kind of cichlids they were, but I was fascinated by one particular ditch that there wasn't any tarpon in that particular day,
Right.
but I could see these fish swimming around, and I couldn't get them to eat. And to this day, I don't know what they were, but I got a fairly good look at them. They were not tilapia.
Oh, they weren't.
No.
I was going to assume they were tilapia because they wouldn't eat.
Yeah. But it was March, which theoretically should have been good, but there'd been a cold front.
Right.
And it was just, everything was cold. Water was cold. All the stuff that you want on a trip just wasn't coming together.
Gotcha. Well, when we all go back, we'll get some.
Works for me.
So, y'all want to tag team the fish of the month?
Oh yeah. Stump us.
Let's do it.
No stumping this month, I promise.
The largemouth bass. Is it the clown knifefish?
It is not the clown knifefish. I like Justin's super early guesses.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
One episode, I'm gonna get it right with that stupid guess by accident.
Wait, what am I going to do?
So just say yes.
Yes, that's it. We're not going to do
We're
fish
outta
of the
here.
month this month.
You say, yeah, that's actually it. Let's go over the facts about
Justin,
Sure.
guess correctly. Nobody has ever seen or heard of a largemouth bass.
it.
It's the rarest fish in the world. So our fish of the month this month is a common estuarine fish in the Gulf of Mexico and in the Atlantic from Florida north to Maryland. This fish's family consists of about 78 genera and almost 300 species. The IGFA lists the world record at 17 pounds, 7 ounces from Florida in 95.
That rules out the most obvious guess.
Mhm.
All right, let's move on.
What was the most obvious?
Redfish.
Well, the range, I immediately thought of redfish as
Yeah.
well.
First
and I thought
thing
striper,
comes to
but
mind,
stripers
right,
are
is a
wide.
redfish.
Stripers have a much
Right.
wider range.
Yeah.
But yeah, redfish I thought of too.
17 pounds. All right.
One of the reasons we do the fish of the month is to laugh at the nicknames that these fish have.
I still have a couple of guesses, but
There aren't a ton for this fish,
mhm.
but here we go. The first one's my favorite. Nosferatu.
Oh, I know it, but I don't. It's
Yeah.
man. I've heard that nickname.
Really?
I have.
I like it.
I've
I
heard
like
that nickname, and I wish
I
I could
haven't
place it.
I
with a
haven't
fish.
heard the nickname, but it makes me
I
think of a
hadn't.
fish.
But now when I hear that, I know what the fish is. It's brilliant. Yellowmouth. The next one is salmon.
I know what fish we're talking about, but this is hilarious.
Do you really?
I think so.
Awesome.
I think the yellowmouth gave it away.
I might.
But for Justin's sake, I think I'll keep my mouth shut.
No,
I'm
I
not
like
sure.
this. I like this.
I don't know
this is-
saltwater as well, so
In Spanish, truco de mar. In Cajun French, tweet gris. Then the salmon trout.
Truca de Mar gave it away for me, but
Really?
yeah.
That's cool.
Chuka de Mar did? Wow.
The Simon trout, which is amusing.
Hello, my name is Simon,
Winter trout.
and I like to do drawing.
Black trout. And then, of course, the next one Dave would have given away immediately.
Yo,
Gator.
gator was a gator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gator.
Yeah.
And then to get Justin on board with this, speckles.
Yeah, I think I had it a while ago, but
Yeah, the spotted weakfish or just speck.
Now,
mhm.
okay, for those of you that haven't figured this out yet, which should be nobody
Right.
that lives anywhere near the Gulf Coast, but you know, there were some weird ones in there. This fish is the speckled trout, and I have always wondered. We're going to get back to the speckled trout in just a moment.
Sure.
Mhm.
But there is a fish that they catch on the California coast, which is not in the same range, called a weakfish.
Right.
But that's the one that looks like a redfish, isn't it? It's
Yep.
so weird. It's like the nicknames, but it's a totally different species.
Well, it happens a lot.
Yeah, I guess it's not that rare.
But
All right.
but they are, Dave, they are both drum. So
Yeah, and that doesn't surprise me at all because
that's the answer.
every once in a while I'm like, is a speck in the drum family? I think it is.
It
And,
is.
You
Then
know,
then you
there's
look
like,
at it and go,
yeah.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, it is.
and like everything's in the drum family. So I don't know whether it was the
Pretty
genera or the radii or the ulna or whatever you said, but you said a big number on one of those.
The radii and the old
300 species in its family,
Okay.
which is all the drum, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, well done.
That was one of my guesses based
Early?
after redfish, based on the range and the size
Spot on.
was
Spot
going to
on,
be
yeah.
speckled
Yeah.
trout.
Yellowmouth and 17 pounds is like 90%
Yeah.
sure this is speckled
See,
trout. He said
I haven't
Truca de
caught
Mar, and I
one.
was like, okay.
Yeah, the yellowmouth didn't mean anything, but my guess was it might be speckled trout just based on
Very
range and
good.
size, and obviously getting to like the speck and all the trout names. I was like, okay,
Yeah,
I know this.
I know.
Yeah.
But Nosferatu, I like it.
Yeah. Don't they have
Yeah.
like two big front
Two.
sharp teeth, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Well, usually when I catch them, they have one because I'm getting the dirty ones.
Yeah.
But
It's
two
extremely
full
common
teeth.
for one of those teeth to be
Mhm.
broken.
Of
Very
course it
common.
is.
You
Of
know,
course it is.
they're out there eating whatever swims by, right? Which is, you know,
Right.
is going to be a shrimp one day, a pinfish one day, then they get in a fight with a
Yeah.
blue crab. And some of the stuff they eat is hard.
Right. I assume they grow those teeth back. I don't know.
I don't know.
Probably.
Other fish do, so
Question
why not?
mark? Yeah, I was thinking
Yeah.
sharks do.
Right. But yeah, I always catch the snaggletooth myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like Nosferatu. It's a cool name.
I'm sure lures break them off too.
There's that too. Somebody hits one crunches on a hard jerk bait.
Yep.
I don't know why I try this each month, but yes, spotted sea trout, Cynocian nebulosus. Pretty good, maybe.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
That sounded like the name of a distant galaxy. Cynocian nebulosus. Well, yeah, that's where we're going to live when we pollute the Earth.
Yes. So as always, our co-hosts don't know this fish beforehand. That said, what could you guys tell me about them?
I feel like we just covered a bulk of my knowledge of this species. They have 2 teeth. They're predators. They eat whatever they can get a hold of.
They are predators.
We briefly covered the fact that they are related to drum, to the drum family.
They are drum,
etc. They are drum. They're heavily sought after by anglers. They're very popular sport and food fish. I have not caught or eaten one yet, but they are supposed to be delicious.
Ooh, yeah, they are.
They're pretty tasty, yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
You haven't caught one, but you have.
I've caught related fish.
And you fished next to them and just didn't happen to catch one.
Yep, exactly. I did catch a little sand trout down there one time, which I was, much like the pinfish from earlier, I was very excited by because I had never caught one before.
Dave, you eaten the sand trout?
Have I eaten one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sand trout are great.
Delicious. I don't know that I would be able to tell the difference between a sand trout and a speck side by side. In fact, I have eaten meals with sand trout and speck side by side.
You meant cooked up.
Yeah.
No way to know a difference.
I was going to say, well, one has speckles.
I tell you what. So, like, you guys are aware, right? But nobody listening would know this. That I grew up in Montana. I grew up in trout country, and my very first saltwater trip, I think a speckled trout was the first fish that I caught.
Really?
And it just so happened that we had taken some kayaks across the channel, and the tide was going out. And so there's these little cuts that come off the flats, a little deeper water, right? That sort of channels the bait fish.
Right.
And on the deeper side, the predator fish will sit there and pick off the bait fish or whatever. And it just happened to be the stars aligned, and I was blind fishing, right? Not a thing I normally do, but this was my very first trip to the coast, and we were blind fishing, and it was catching trout after trout after trout after trout after trout. And it just blew me away because I knew they were called speckled trout, and it messed with my mind. Because like a trout lives in 55-degree water.
Montana mind couldn't take it.
In the mountains, and they're beautiful. And the first speckled trout I pulled out, it's amazing. Slap a barracuda jaw in the front.
Yeah.
Paint it yellow. But then you look at the body, and it's got the same beautiful radiance of a freshwater trout.
Yeah.
But in like kind of a little bit of a tougher, harder way. You know,
that's a really good way to put it.
It's like a trout raised on the streets.
Yeah, it's a trout with some street cred, you know. And I tell you what, man, in fact I never ate one for years, and my first
because they were too pretty.
You know, and
that's kind of how I feel with smallmouth bass.
This is not meant to be snobby at all. Part of it's laziness, but I just caught and released for years and years and years, and. You know, it was several years of going down to the coast and catch and release fishing that before I ate a saltwater fish here that I'd caught myself. And it was because I caught a large speckled trout, like about 6 or 7 pounds.
Nice.
In August on a fly rod. And
I know where this is going.
I tried like hell to revive it, and it just was dead. It wasn't dead, but it just kept rolling over, and we'd pick it up and I'd throw water through its gills. The water was too hot. You know, I caught him early in the morning and it came up shallow, but the water was too hot and it died. So we threw it in the cooler. I took it home, cooked it up. And my wife said, "Could you go accidentally kill a few more fish on the coast?"
You know, I don't eat that many saltwater fish that I catch on the coast. If I go down there and I catch flounder, I am required to put them in the cooler.
Right.
And then on my yearly surf fishing trip, if we get a redfish that's the right size to eat, I will take one and cook him right on the beach.
Yeah.
That's it.
I am psychologically more likely to eat a saltwater fish but I don't actually do it. And the reason is because I live about 4 hours from the coast. Well, much closer than I used to, but it's about a 4-hour drive.
Right.
I don't cook on vacation. It's just not a thing I do. And so,
Makes sense.
I'm just kind of like, I'll catch a keeper redfish on whatever day, the day before I'm driving home, and I just don't. I'm like, it's not going to be as fresh as if I took it home and cooked it tonight.
Right.
And the reality is, probably if I threw it on ice, took it back to the room or the pier or whatever, filleted it out and kept that fillet on ice until I got home, it'd probably be delicious.
Almost certainly, yeah.
But I've got this hang up that it's not the same day I'm cooking it. And I'm certainly not going to, if I catch a fish in the morning on the coast, even if I'm coming home that day, you got to come home and unpack all your gear. And it's Texas, so it's 1,000 degrees and miserable. And,
Right. And you're on vacation. You're not planning on cooking.
Yeah, it's just work. Now,
it's work.
If I'm down there for like a week or something, there's been a few times I've gone down for like a week with friends or whatever. Yeah. I mean, we'll day 2 or 3, if we catch some fish, some keeper fish, that's when we'll eat them. We'll go ahead and fire up the grill and eat them. We'll make a mess that one night.
Right. I think I redfish with you on the coast once during a big get together.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's right. Somebody else cooked it. See, we just got to eat it.
This is an excellent point. Justin, did you have redfish?
We haven't had it yet. Most of the times we've been down there, the ones we've caught have either been too small or way too big.
Yeah. Well, you guys are surf fishing.
Not a bad problem.
Surf fishing, yeah.
And that's a very common problem in the surf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Too small or way too big.
Yep.
We all have a tag, and I think next trip, if I get like a 32, I'll just tag him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's not too big to eat. It's not going to throw me off in weird flavors.
Took him over that big log we burnt.
Okay. Now, Bret and I had a fishing trip, and this was also a long time ago, and on a freshwater lake that had redfish. And I think I busted a myth. And this also is the only time. So I had a bass boat, and I bought a good fish finder, and I tried to learn how to use it, right? I tried trolling around and finding, pods of sand bass on the lakes. And I never could. Nothing on this fish finder. Maybe it wasn't very good. But this is the only fishing trip I've ever been on where I'm driving the boat, and I've got a fish finder, and I looked at the fish finder, and it was lit up like spaghetti.
Mm-hmm.
It was spaghetti.
It was spaghetti. It looked like Chef Boyardee right on my little fish finder.
There were trails going right through that bait ball.
Yeah. And Bret and I both threw a bait out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, I don't even remember what they were, but like just a heavy spoon or something, whatever it was, both of us, the bait hits the water and, drops for 1.5 seconds and goes screaming off into the sunset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
that's awesome.
Bret brings in a redfish, and it's a pretty nice fish. I mean, it's a great size redfish. It was probably a keeper. It was a keeper size because we cut it up. And I'm trying to bring this fish in, and Bret's giving me a hard time. And
yeah,
I'm not a conventional fisherman. Like I don't use conventional tackle much.
Were you just using a line tied to a can?
I was using a bait caster bass rig, but I spent my whole life fly fishing, and it's not even a snob thing. It's just like I don't know my way around conventional tackle.
Yeah.
And Bret's giving me a hard time. He's like, bring this fish in. I'm like, I think my drag's maxed out. It's weird for me because it's weird for me to have a fish pull on your line and have part of the reel turn because I fly fish, which is direct drive.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, I think I'm maxed out. Here. Like I tested this drag before we started fishing, and I whatever line I was fishing, 12 or something, I think I put like 4 or 5 pounds of drag on it. Well, like 20 minutes later, I pull it in, and it's a 22-pound redfish.
Nice.
And dead.
Oh yeah, and also dead. I mean, also dead. And
so you just let it wear itself out, so it had a heart attack, and then
I literally couldn't make it come in.
Yeah.
I mean, I could reel while I was pulling drag out. But I was afraid if I tightened the drag, and maybe I could have tightened the drag down. I was afraid if I tightened that star one more time, it was going to pop off.
Yeah.
Dave, it was also 20 foot deep against the dam of a lake.
Oh yeah.
Wide open water.
Yeah.
So
nowhere to go but away from you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you probably had 6 treble hooks on that lure.
Oh yeah.
So you're probably okay. Let it go.
The reason why I'm telling the story is I had heard all the news and all the stuff about how small redfish good, big redfish bad, and I don't know what the length on it was. I never measured it, but It weighed 22 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And when I ate it, it tasted just as good as any other redfish I'd eat. I mean, it tasted delicious, absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
You know, I filleted it, did the redfish on the half shell, which is where you leave the skin and scales on and just put the scale down on the barbecue grill, and the sort of the moisture steams the fish. It's delicious.
I've done that with hybrids.
Yeah, that's how we do them on the beach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how I do it too. Yeah.
It's the way to go, man.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
So I think that covers the speckled trout.
plus we got off in the
Hey, what segment were we on again?
I don't know. But so anything else on the speckled trout?
Yeah. There's one more thing about the speckled trout that's mostly this is information aimed at people that either don't live in their range or have never caught them before. That being in the drum family, when you catch them, they drum, and I don't know how to describe it. You feel it, you don't really hear it.
Mm-hmm.
But it just kind of, they vibrate, they drum like the way a cat purrs. But like, imagine a guy on a bass drum in a marching band. You know,
that's a good description,
and it's very odd. And they seem to all do it. The sand trout do it.
They all grunt at you. Yep.
Yeah.
Freshwater drum do it too.
Yeah. And you will hear it every once in a while, but especially with specks, I find that you feel it more than hear it. So it'll be, you brought the fish in, it's in your hands and you're unhooking it. And that's when it's complaining.
Mm-hmm. That's how they say, let me go, man. What the hell's wrong with you? Who puts a hook in a fish?
Is it just the males that drum?
Ooh, I don't know.
I have no idea. I feel like I associated it with that in freshwater drum, but I don't know if there's any truth to it, or just something I heard when I was a kid and some guy on the back was like, that one's croaking, must be a male or whatever.
Right, that's what I always heard too. Or is that the catfish I'm thinking of?
I mean, they do it as well, but I don't know if it's male, female.
It's different. I think it's a different mechanism on catfish too, isn't it?
Probably. I honestly don't know.
I don't know. We're awesome.
Yeah, yes. Clearly experts in all things.
Look, man, I figured out the fish. What else do you want from me?
That's a good point. Oh, cool. So that covers the speckled trout or spotted
we could always Google it and then come back and act like we knew it.
Sure, but that's cheating.
He'll come back with it next month.
I could talk about him for another hour, but the episode would be too long. I will say this about speckled trout.
Cool.
For people that, whether it doesn't matter, primary thing, secondary, for people that do like to fly fish, speckled trout are very fun to catch on topwaters early in the morning, right before the sun starts coming up.
True.
And because they will tend to get more shallow at that time. They're a little bit more flats shy than a redfish or a black drum.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they'll never get on there, but they tend to get up on the flats more at night. So it is a lot of fun to throw something like a gurgler or any kind of a topwater. And if you're not fly fishing, it doesn't matter. Throw a spook, walk the dog, and it is so much fun.
Yep.
Which is different than what you normally see when you see people fishing on the coast, which is nipple deep.
No, you see them standing out there with the shrimp, chest deep, waiting for the shrimp to go off. You're right.
Which is fun too. But that's just that's kind of the maybe like the working man's version of catching them, or the 80%, 80-20, like you catch 80% of them doing that, but that 20% in the morning's fun.
It's more fun. Now, I've never caught a speck on bait. Is that weird?
I have no idea.
I haven't either.
I'm a little surprised we haven't caught any in the surf down there.
They're not in the surf quite as much.
No?
They get out. They definitely get out there.
Mm-hmm.
But they tend to stay a little more protected, a little more around the grass.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
It's funny you were talking about when you caught that pinfish, Justin. You were talking about with that, or Bret made sure to say not with a cast net, right? Because pinfish are a common bait that you might catch to feed speckled trout or redfish or whatever.
Yeah, that's what we're catching them for.
He made me stop throwing the cast net
so I could try to catch one.
Yeah. The irony is I have seen pinfish on the flats, with my naked little eyes sight fishing for redfish and stuff swimming around. But the only ones I've ever caught are like the size of what you'd be very happy you would consider a very large bluegill. Something that's in like maybe the 8-9 ounce range. It's like as big as your hand.
Oh yeah.
I caught that on like a tiny little piece of dead mullet on like a size 10 hook. on the bottom. And I had like 20 takes before I finally hooked one because they're all so small that I just could not get the hook to go in the mouth long enough to get a hook set on one.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are perfect size for hooking for rat reds.
Mhm.
Interesting.
They were small.
So what I'm hearing is, if you're on the coast, well, at least in the kind of sort of the Gulf Coast of Texas, and maybe wrapping her up around Florida's, if you catch a fish and it's not a Goliath grouper, it's a drum.
Pretty much, yeah. Come to think
There's
of it.
flounder,
Mhm.
That's true. Flounder is not a drum.
sharks, and drum in the Gulf.
Neither are blue crabs. But a blue crab's not a fish.
Everything else is a drum. It's crazy down there.
Yeah. Mullet, are mullet in the drum family? Probably not.
Mullet or not, they are not. They're I think they're mullet.
Yeah.
So over the next few weeks, send in your spotted sea trout pics, stories to FOTM at ifitswims.com. Pics may make it to the webpage, and stories could be read here. Before we head out, Dave, Justin, anything else from you guys?
Nada.
If you like hearing us ramble about fishing, stay tuned. We may ramble about some other things in the future.
Ah, there we go. I've got one quick note. Dave, Justin, I appreciate you guys doing this. It's actually a lot more fun with more people on it.
Yeah, this has been fun.
It gets even wackier, which is
Mhm.
good.
Well, thanks for having us.
Let's close this thing down.
All right.
Thanks for joining us this month. Please subscribe. And if you find any of this entertaining, interesting, or funny, spread the word. We are on the web at ifitswims.com and on Instagram at if_it_swims. All links to find us are available in the show notes, along with links to items covered this month. Our music was written for us by Dallas artist Jeff Hewitt. Join us again next month, and as always, we will see you out there.